I apologize that we are a few minutes late, but welcome to the Tuesday, September 25th, 2018 meeting of the Noblesville Common Council. All those who are able, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Hampton, would you join us, or would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Ayr.
Present.
Mr. Boyce.
Present.
Mr. Hampton.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. O'Connor.
Present.
Mr. Taylor.
Present.
Ms. Wiles.
Present.
Mr. Jensen.
Present.
Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. A point of personal privilege, I will note that we're down one council member tonight. We had a council member, Mary Sue Rowland, resign this week, effective yesterday. And I know I speak for all 8 of us when I say her voice will be missed, although it will not be missed because I guarantee she'll still be calling us, emailing us, and texting us her thoughts. So we thank her on behalf of a grateful city for her service. So for joining me. And with that, we will move on to the approval of the minutes from the September 11th, 2018 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Abstain.
7 approved, 1 abstention. Moving on to tonight's approval of the agenda.
Mr. President,
Mr. Ayr.
I'd like to amend the agenda. I move to postpone ordinance 31-09-18, 33-09-18, 34-09-18, and resolutions RC 1318, resolution RC 1518, and RC 1618, and the public hearings associated with them to the October 9th meeting.
We have a motion to move in the agenda in its second. All those in favor of the amended agenda? Thank you very much. All right, 8-0. Thank you very much. Again, anyone who is present to speak at the public hearings, they will be open for public comment at the October 9th meeting here at 7 o'clock in the council chambers. So, with that, petitions or comments by citizens who are present, I have none, but if you are interested in speaking, there are forms just outside the north door there. Please fill them up and hand them to the clerk at any point in time. And we'll move on to the mayor's report to council. Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. President, members of council. It's my privilege tonight to introduce and congratulate Eric Thornberry and the Marching Millers. As you may know and hope know, they are state champions, marching band champions for the 2nd year in a row. I challenged them to three-peat, but 2 in a row is just an outstanding accomplishment. They are here with the trophy, and Eric, if you would like, come up and give us some comments about your success and how successful you guys were.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us here. I definitely want to make sure that we got here, and I hope we do three-peat, and then, well, you can come back. Yeah, come back. And we always say we don't really care about whether we win or not. We just want the students to be as good as they can be, and then if they do that, we kind of let the chips fall. And but it's always nice to be recognized for that. We are very proud of being able to do it 2 years in a row, and also this year we set the record for the highest score in the history of the state fair with a 93.35. Awesome. So I didn't know that. They put a program out, and it lists like the history of the state fair. And of course, the history of State Fair Band Day is where Indiana Marching Band comes from, and it's I mean, it dates back to John Philip Sousa played at the state fair many times. Noblesville is in there in 1965 when they, is that right, 65, when they won the first time. They were the first band to backward march, and they won the state fair. So now we're going to be on the timeline twice. And there's another one, on this timeline of the history of the State Fair Band Day, and Franklin Central holds the record for the most consecutive State Fair championships with 4. So that's, there you go, right, that's right. They have 4 in a row. Yeah, so we're halfway there. But it's just been an honor and privilege to work with these students. Speaking of setting our record, Evan Meinerding's here. When he was a freshman, and I didn't know this, again, he put a Post-it note on his bulletin board that said 93.25 And so for the next, and I stared at it every day, and that knew that that was the score to beat. I think he was the first student that went crazy when they announced the score, and he knew before everybody that we had broken the record. So that was pretty cool. But we're just excited to represent Noblesville and the growing community, the growing school system, and it's also happening in our band program as well. And our tons of support from our school board, from our administration, just to have the resources to be able to do this. It's pretty expensive, you know, when we look at new tubas, new marimbas. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment that we use, and the trucks that we travel with and all of that. So it's a big ordeal, and we couldn't do it without the support of our administration, our parents, and our city. So we thank you, and we're proud to represent you.
State champions. Congratulations again.
Mayor, do you want to get a picture of all the kids with the trophy?
Okay, sure. Let's do that.
Bring the hardware. We should all stand up.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. These guys are right down the front.
Grace got it. Grace has got it. Also,
Greg Wiles can take
Greg
a
Wiles,
picture.
will you
Wiles,
be the
yeah.
photographer, please?
Try to stand up, okay, so we can be seen. Yeah. Huh?
Hey, Aiden, I think you need,
Yeah. Scoot on in here a little bit.
get us all in here.
When we take pictures, you close in as if you like each other. Photographers are like that.
Aiden, is there something right there by
Yeah, there's, okay, all right.
the scroll is right there?
You ready? 1, 2, 3. Great.
Guys, go Millers. All right. All right, go Millers.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, band members, you did get your certificate. Is that correct, I hope?
Yes.
I signed over, and I don't like rubber stamps, I signed over 200 certificates for recognition, but again, well worth it. Congratulations again.
Thank you for doing that.
You can stay the whole meeting if you want to.
But you don't have to. It goes downhill from here.
Another program that we're very proud of is our Sister Cities program. And we had students visit this last year. And Henry Cole, who's one of the leaders of Sister Cities, is here to update you.
Mr. Cole?
Thank you, Mayor, Councilman. The program this year was the 4th time for Noblesville to host our 2 sister cities, and now each of the 3 sister cities have hosted 4 times. I'm going to give you a little brief background because I was told some of the people are not sure and have heard about this background, but in 1956, when Eisenhower was our president, he gave a speech to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and he encouraged all the mayors to reach out around the world and form relationships with other cities. And his comment was, we were in the height of the Cold War then, and his comment was that if we do this in enough cities, and they come to your city, and you go to theirs, and you break bread, you'll make friends for yourself, and you'll make friends for America, and we could have peace through people. And that's when it started. Our organization, Sister Cities International, in Washington, D.C., formulated then in 1956. We have over 700 cities in the U.S. that are in the program, like Noblesville, and they're linked with 2,400 other cities in the world in 137 countries. The program has tremendously worked, and we're so proud here in Noblesville to have our committee of volunteers, around 30 to 35 people every year, to put this program on and to keep it going. And if you think about 4 youth and a chaperone coming from each foreign city to the host city every year, if you've done it 4 times, 4 times 3 is 12, that's a lot of youth from these communities that have had an opportunity that they'll remember the rest of their life, to go visit a foreign city, learn about another culture, live in a private home, not in a hotel, and get to know what that city is all about. So we're tickled to have had our success for the 4th time of hosting this. And I have a special small gift for the mayor, a picture of the final group signed on the back by all of the youth that were here.
Oh, wow, that's cool. Thank you.
It was exchanged for this year, everybody, and then in the back it's all signed.
Isn't that cool?
That's awesome.
As you may know, we have a sister city roundabout on Union Chapel, so.
Right.
And you probably go by there
Every day,
But,
multiple times.
Thank you, and you've done a great job, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much. And we have one of those students from Italy, Cittadella, who is staying here all year. Who's a senior in high school. It was here a couple of years ago, and now coming to Noblesville. So kind of exciting that they come back even later. Other than that, things have been a little bit busy. Had the opportunity to sell our city to MIBOR, Metropolitan Board of Realtors. All 4 mayors, the mayors weren't there, but all 4 cities were represented. I was the only mayor, but anyway, surprise, surprise. And we were selling our cities as well as Indianapolis and Lawrence. So again, we do that every year, but it's a great opportunity for us to brag about Noblesville, and we do that pretty well, actually. Spent afternoon, or part of an afternoon, with the Hamilton County Leadership Academy. Again, the 4 mayors within the city do talk about our jobs and what we do. And again, I think it goes over well. They know a little bit about local government in that regard. We did present our charity Jubilee presentation checks to the various donors, recipients of that charity. There was a retirement open house for Reverend Mallory Terrence. He's the pastor at Bethel AME and has been in the ministry for 45 years. So a little reception for him. I did surprise him, and I didn't know it was a surprise, but we had our proclamation, and he was, I think, pleased with that. I rode the Nickel Plate Express last Friday. Great experience from Atlanta, and went to Cicero and back. It was a little warm on the one car, but nonetheless, just a good kickoff for the Nickel Plate Express. So other than that, I did get out of town for a week, and here we are. Coming up, we have the Chamber Luncheon on Wednesday, which is the schools, the 50th anniversary of Stony Creek School. 50 years, that's something. And also have a presentation at Stony Creek, but that's not that important. But anyway, that's it for me. Do you have any questions of me?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Moving on to council committee reports. Mr. O'Connor.
Finance Committee met September 20th. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief because we've just spent quite a bit of time prior to this meeting talking about the 2019 budget summary, which we reviewed prior to our meeting this evening. We had 3 economic development projects we discussed in executive session. Some of those you may see forthcoming. There'll be more information, probably coming back to Finance Committee on a couple of those, but those discussions were robust. I think they were inquisitive, and we got a number of questions answered. So those were good discussions there. As we talk this evening, we will schedule another review of the budget prior to the next council meeting, which I think is October 9th, correct?
Yes.
We'll set a time, but that way we can finalize any questions, comments, and we'll likely have the budget introduced that night, I believe, because it has to be passed by the 25th. So we'll still have a little time to make any changes that we want to make to it prior to that time. So if you have any questions and you want to direct those to me, I'm happy to take those, see if we need to make any changes prior to that meeting on the 9th. But our meeting ran too long, so I didn't have a quorum to recommend the claims, but I'll make a motion to approve the claims as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor of approval of claims? 8-0. Thank you very much. All right, moving right along to previously discussed ordinances. We have two that we'll take together. Or previously discussed ordinance 28-09-18, council to consider ordinance 28-09-18, an ordinance for a change from zoning from R1 single-family residential to R3 single-family residential and R5 multifamily residential for approximately 63 acres located east of Mill Creek Road, north of 171st Street and west of Willowview Road. And ordinance 29-09-18, council to consider ordinance 29-09-18, an ordinance for a change from zoning from R3 single-family residential and R5 multifamily residential to R3, R5 PD, and the adoption of the preliminary development plan and standards for approximately 63 acres to be known as Midland Overlook Plan Development, located east of Mill Creek Road, north of 171st Street and west of Willowview Road. Mr. Ayer?
Yes, Council President.
Can you please speak in your microphone there?
I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
That's all right.
Council President, council members, I'm presenting my conflict of interest disclosure form, hopefully the last one of the year or longer, in regards to these two ordinances open for discussion.
Mr. Ayer has presented his conflict of interest disclosure. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Ayer. All right. Mr. Schlusser, how are you, buddy?
Good, how's it going?
Good.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So these items were before you 2 weeks ago, and rather uneventfully, aside from a couple spelling corrections, the only changes that have occurred since that time, per staff request, the applicants have committed to provide additional shrubs at a rate of 5 per 100 linear feet in the landscape buffer, as noted in section 6.B.2 of revised ordinance 29-09-18, and per request of Councilman Taylor and Councilman Johnson, 5 additional lots on the south side of the development entrance at Willowview Road were designated with an asterisk to receive additional architectural enhancements on the rear facades.
Questions of Justin? Developer? No? No? Any comments? Mr. Hampton?
I just have one for the developer.
Yeah.
And this may have been something I missed in there. What's your plan as far as the phases? You know, what's going to be built first? And
Keith Lash with Lennar Homes will address that question.
So name and address as well, please.
I have a follow-up whenever he says this, because I'm trying to figure
Sure.
something.
For the record, Keith Lash with Lennar. Phasing on the development would start from the east and work its way to the west. Because there are 3 products, the ranch, the 2-story, and the townhomes, I would say the northern half of the site virtually will be all developed in the first phase in order to bring all 3 products on with the first phase of the development. It would then move south. It's probably a 2-phase development, a year and a half apart.
Townhomes will be built as part of that.
Of the first phase, yes.
First phase.
At least half the townhome lots will be developed with the first phase.
And that was kind of leading to my question. If those are highly successful, is there any chance or would you consider putting those along the other side as well? Is that even something that?
From a market standpoint, I'd love to, but at that point, the infrastructure would be in, and we probably wouldn't be able to fit them in, would be my guess.
I wondered.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just have one, and I asked this 2 weeks ago, and I think you cleared it up, but I just want to hear it one more time. When will the road improvements start for this development?
We would begin to work on the road improvements possibly with phase one. We would start the engineering. There may be some right-of-way acquisition. We've got to work with the state. So assuming we're able to align all of the stars with approvals from the city engineer and the state, acquire the right-of-way, we would do those improvements with phase one. If any of those lagged, it would just lag along after phase one. But the intent would be to do it with phase one.
So they haven't been approved yet for this project?
The improvements, no. We have not submitted construction plans to the state. We've worked out with staff, with city engineer, what those improvements would be, but there's a process we need to go through with the state. And I think John will help urge us through that process, so that I think will accelerate it.
Thank you.
Questions or comments? Justin, would you like to close with you?
I did forget to mention that staff supports the ordinances as revised, but as proposed, staff supports the proposal, so.
No other questions, we'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 29-08-18.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, this will be a roll call vote.
Mr. Boyce?
Aye.
Mr. Hampton?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Ms. Wiles?
Aye.
Mr. Jensen?
Aye.
7 aye. The ordinance is adopted.
Since the second ordinance was amended, we'll have to take the motion to amend ordinance 29-09-18 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? 7-0. And now do we have a motion to approve ordinance 29-09-18?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. This will be a roll call vote. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Hampton?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Ms. Wiles?
Aye.
Mr. Boyce? Mr. Jensen?
Aye.
7-0, the ordinance is adopted.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Moving on, new ordinances for discussion. Ordinance 32-09-18. Council to consider ordinance 32-09-18, an ordinance annexing approximately 5.0 acres and located at 16901 River Road /102 Natasha Drive, and resolution RC-14-18, adopting a fiscal plan.
Motion to introduce.
Second.
And Ms.
Yeah, we have an email.
Yeah,
Somebody
but somebody
come up and-
complaining has to come up and motion that, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Per my instructions before the meeting, for the record.
I'll make the motion.
Those weren't passed along.
That's
so,
all right.
Our understanding is the applicant at this point in time would like to ask to have that annexation withdrawn.
I'll make the motion to withdraw that.
Second.
Simply.
Been moved and second to withdraw. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you very much. Clerk, did we do that correctly? Got it. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, moving along to proposed development presentation. Number 1. Council to consider introductory information for the proposed development, Stony Bluffs planned development. Good evening, Mr. Wirt.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For the record, I'm Andy Wirt, land use professional with the law firm Churchill and Antrim, with offices at 2 North 9th Street here in Noblesville. Here tonight on behalf of Mina Corey of Triad Group LLC, owner of the 22 acres at 11,002 East 166th Street. For those of you who don't know Mr. Corey, he's not new as a developer in Noblesville. He was a developer of record for Essex Section 3 off Hazelden Road. He more recently has been involved in the repurposing of the old Laser Shine wash and vac building on East Connor Street. Back to the subject property, we've got Sagamore Golf Course and subdivision to the south, Stony Creek Golf Course to the east, an estate-type home to the west, and then Stony Creek forming the northern boundary. This land is currently undeveloped, save for a small barn. We are proposing a subdivision of 27 lots that will be developed with custom single-family homes. At this time, we've not identified a specific builder. We have been working with planning staff on architectural standards that will be part of the plan development ordinance. As I'm sure you know, there are standards making their way through the public hearing process. As a text amendment to the Noblesville Unified Development Ordinance, it's our intent to duplicate those standards, or if they're not in final form by the time our public hearing comes around, we will come as close to what we believe to be the spirit of those standards. Ultimately, we are confident the homes constructed will exceed the standards that are adopted by the UDO. You may recall seeing this property before you back in 2014. Ryland Homes had a proposed subdivision of paired patio homes, I believe a total of 44 units. Great product, wrong location. The proposal did not sit well with the neighbors and was ultimately withdrawn. We do believe that this is a sensible proposal given the development around this property. We have been in contact with Sagamore Homeowners Association, as well as Mr. McComb, who owns the property to the west. And in addition, we will be holding a neighborhood meeting next week at Promise Road Elementary. Look forward to your thoughts, comments, questions, any concerns.
Questions or comments from Mr. Word?
Mr. Ward, I think I heard you say that you do not have a builder identified yet. Is that correct?
Not as of yet.
Okay.
I know Mr. Corey has talked to a couple. I believe they have built in Sagamore. He's talked about perhaps building them himself.
Do you anticipate having that builder identified by the time it gets back in front of us, or that's subject to those discussions, I guess?
It's subject to the discussions,
okay.
Yes. And I was actually expecting Mr. Corey here tonight. Don't know what happened. My apologies.
Hampton.
City engineering been brought in as far as the it seems like a lot of these subdivisions that are built when there's only one way in, one way out, sometimes it becomes a traffic issue. I don't anticipate that out here, but I'm just wondering what the city engineering has weighed in.
Well, we have been to the tech committee, and the one piece of input that we got from John Berry was that he wanted a passing blister at the entrance, but there's only 27 lots here, so I don't think the single entrance is going to be a problem.
Mr. Aaron?
I did get back there a few minutes later. The majority of these lots 80 foot or wider. Am I reading this correctly?
I believe the standard is 80 feet on the width that we've proposed for PD.
I don't see the depth on it. I see the.
Are they core acre each, Andy? Thereabouts?
I want to say that that's about the average.
Yes. If you go to the final page of that.
So are you looking at an R2 or an R3 zone?
We're going for actually an R2 underlying zoning, just to match the density that we're proposing, which is right around 2.9.
Do you have any idea, Andy, at this point, what the minimum square footage in there would be? I know you're talking about following the UDO, but just trying to get a sense of.
I'm trying to remember a number that I think I heard the developer state, and I want to say it's around 3,500, 4,000 square feet.
Sizable.
Question, Mr. Taylor?
I'm sure I'll have questions, but I just don't have enough information yet.
Sure. I'm sure we'll look forward to the developer being back in front of us here before too long. So, additional questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Wirt.
Thank you for your
Appreciate your time. Moving on, council comments. Stoic bunch, okay. With that.
That's what happens when you start at 4:30 in the afternoon.
That's true. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Have a good evening. Thank you so much.